Inventum Search welcomes you to the latest in our series of interviews with business leaders. My name is Joe Wells. I'm a partner at Inventum Search, which is part of the Wells Tobias recruitment group. Inventum Search is a new kind of executive search firm with diversity and inclusion at the core of everything that we do. So to begin with, Terence, if you could tell us about your journey from a working class East End guy to the boardroom of multinational organisations.
I actually consider myself to have been extremely lucky with my career path. As you mentioned, coming from the East End of London, where statistically I probably wouldn't have arrived to where I have professionally. I've been lucky enough to work with or have met people such as Usain Bolt, Pele, Samuel Jackson, Forrest Whitaker, working with, as you mentioned, the Arsenal Football Club.
What does diversity and inclusion mean to you?
I heard a fantastic quote once which said that diversity is like being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. And I think that that is incredibly apt. In the sense that whether companies, and I've experienced this on occasion, have diversity or people from diverse backgrounds as a token exercise, that can backfire if you don't include people from diverse backgrounds in the process, if they aren't allowed to develop within the organisation to be party to the processes. And there's a very recent example of that from Nike, which I'll go into at a later stage. And I think that my career, professional career and personal background have led me to this point in time where not only is it very topical in the public domain, but something that's very personal and passionate to me, which is exactly why I'm here today. In my early career playing for the company football team, there are the obvious sort of football locker room, change room banter that kind of takes place, and you often find yourself participating in that banter, often enhancing the kind of the racist or sexist jokes that are taking place, because it's easier to behave that way than to challenge the group and what's being said. So there are, as I say, explicit and subtle examples of some of the challenges that you face. I've started to develop a thinking, although I don't think it's unique to me, which I've kind of called the 4 pillars of global perspective. And I don't think anyone can really deny that the world perspective is influenced by or through the eyes of white, heterosexual, Christian male. Those 4 perspectives influence the way that the whole world is viewed. And I see that as an opportunity that hasn't really been seized upon, in the sense that if, as an employer, you had somebody come to you that was multilingual, you would see that as an asset.
Sure.
And yet, when somebody doesn't tick all 4 of those boxes or all 4 of those pillars, you should similarly be seen as a positive asset, in the sense that those people are raised with that perspective, but yet they often go home, sometimes speaking a different language, or definitely behaving culturally different, or performing different religious rituals. So I call bicultural. And I would encourage employers to view that biculturality with the same positive view that they would somebody who was bi or multilingual. Again, if you were coming into the workplace speaking one or more languages, you would feel that you had something more to offer. And similarly, as bicultural, especially in a world where companies are investing more in consumer research, understanding consumer behavior, etc., to have people that I would call socially sensitive, by virtue of this biculturality, should be seen as a positive.
Absolutely. And I think there's a report from McKinsey that backs that up, isn't there?
Yeah, I can't kind of quote it word for word, but McKinsey have spent a lot of time researching the influence of diversity in the workplace, and one, as I say, quote that springs to mind is the fact that they observed that companies that are more assertive in their diversity practices find staff retention rates to be higher, consumer engagement and interaction to be sort of more positive, and various aspects that develop what they call a kind of a virtuous circle of productivity. And so where one can find a correlation between sort of productivity and performance, then it would stand to reason that there should be no barrier to being more positive and assertive when practicing diversity, because there's clearly no downside.
And sounds to me like, therefore, it's both a moral and a commercial issue, because your examples state that morally, obviously, it's important for us to have diverse environments and reflect our diverse nature of the world.
Yeah.
And commercially, there's a benefit proven by these McKinsey studies.
There are certainly examples where potentially an absence of diversity or an absence of social sensitivity could have contributed to, for example, the Dove campaign, where they showed women of different skin colours sort of exchanging t-shirts. I personally don't think that the campaign or the intention was malicious, and if it had been packaged and presented differently, it probably would have been so sensitively received. Or the H&M campaign, again, another recent campaign where, for example, if there had been a black and a white kid and the tagline "cheeky monkeys," would that have been received less sensitively? I believe so. And like I say, it isn't an absolute science, but I believe that diversity or social sensitivity can help minimize the risk, help minimize such failings occurring. So, like I've said continuously, there really is no downside to assertive diversity.
Do you see this ever becoming a non-issue? You know, could we ever be at a point where people will stop talking about diversity and inclusion and it just be the norm?
Coming from a predominantly sports background, you view the top athletes, whether they are Cristiano Ronaldo or Usain Bolt, as people that continue to strive to improve. And whether you come from a sports, physical or academic background, people always strive to improve. Similarly, I don't think this debate should ever come off the table. There will never be a time where we achieve what is absolute perfection. For example, when I talk about the 4 pillars, they are very much based on my own experiences, but they don't really address the challenges that are posed to people that are disabled. And so the debate, the discussion around diversity and inclusion should always be on the table, and even if at the bare minimum it's to prevent complacency.
Thank you, Terence. I agree. We do need to keep this this topic very much on the table. Couple of key points I got out of the interview today, which I'll take away, were the inclusion aspect. It's all good and well creating sort of diverse quotas and trying to hit a benchmark, but it's actually it's being not just invited to the party, but very much being invited to dance. The social sensitivity and the ensuring that you don't necessarily have to come from a diverse cultural background in order to get this. It's just a case of making sure that there are people in the business that do, and so that the blunders that can occur don't. So we're incredibly grateful for your insight today, and I'm sure everyone would have enjoyed it also. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about a subject that I feel very professionally and personally passionate about, and compliments to Inventum for making this such a priority within the organisation.